at the end of the day, like a computer is only going to do what you tell it to do. I'm sure there's data science experts out there who are screaming at their computers right now, like AI is the powerful like innovation does this. I mean, I don't know anything about that, but I do know at the end of the day, like a computer is just going to do what you tell it to do.
Well, that's the thing about AI though, is because it kind of writes its own rules.
And we're recording. All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 12 of the Winston Boys podcast, exploring wealth, science, and wisdom through philosophical debates. My name is Kush.
And my name is Alex. And today we're going to be talking about, we're going to have a three-part little series on the promise of computers and what exactly we think they can kind of bring to the table, you know. So I think we're going to start off talking kind of about, what kind of stuff we think computers are good at and not good at, right? What is the promise of computer science? What does it bring to the table? And fortunately, for those of you who don't know, Kushagra is, in fact, a computer science major. So we kind of have an in-house expert here.
Which certified nerd.
Yeah, certified nerd. There you go. Can I have the diploma to prove it in another year here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Kush, what kind of stuff do you think computers are best used for?
Yeah, I mean, well, you kind of said it. We've been talking about it, like computations and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, that's there. I don't really know. I mean, sorry. I'm trying to like pick a direction I want to go in, and I just pick one off the top of my head. Like, I feel like there's two like routes we could go with talking about comp sci. Like, we could go the science route, where like you're exploring how the internet and stuff works, or like the other route, which I think it's why a lot of people get interested in comp sci, which is like the engineering route. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I think those two would like have different answers to this question, if that makes sense.
Yeah, pick your favorite, man. Pick your favorite. I don't have I don't know much about this. You're the expert, so.
No, I'm not. I'm speaking from like speculation and just like saying stuff.
Are you saying like society could go two different routes, or you mean like us discussing?
No. So I mean like us, like, so for example, you're talking about like what's the promise of comp sci, right? Well, if we're thinking about it like if we're thinking about it in terms of engineering, right, then the promise of comp sci is anything I imagine in my head, anything I imagine in my head that could exist on the internet or whatever, I can literally just go out and build it.
So let's say I'm talking about like, let's say we ignore all the stuff about, maybe I should refine the question a little bit because it is a really broad premise. I guess what I'm really trying to get at here is, what kind of stuff do you think computers in the future, aside from what they've already brought, which is, internet and a lot of, Netflix, right? And we've all benefited from Netflix, I think, on some level. A lot of Amazon, right? Convenience, accessibility to knowledge, all that stuff. Let's just put all that aside for a moment. Let's talk about the future here. That's what I want to talk about here, is the promise of good things to come, right? Or bad things or whatever. But, we seem to be nearing an era of a new revolution and, AI stuff where computers have kind of gotten smart enough to really, I think, kind of revolutionize science and medicine and a lot of different areas, right? At least a lot of computer science that people seem to think. So I don't know anything about it myself. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think is kind of up and coming here? What do you?
Well, you want my short answer to your first question?
Let's hear.
I mean, I guess this was kind of your whole question, but kind of deviating from the AI side.
Yeah.
Short answer is wealth. I think this is all going to lead to immense amounts of wealth for every single person on the planet. Does that make any sense at all?
So how do you, I mean, is that like wealth, like you think we're going to enjoy our lives more? Because I know you have kind of an untraditional definition of wealth.
Well, I don't know about untraditional. I think it's more aligned with what all the so okay. There's like let me give this example. There's a guy named Naval Ravikant. Okay, he's a really famous venture capitalist. He's another one of these really big personal finance guys. And I know like when he talks about wealth, and just throw this out there too, he's also a billionaire, invested in all the startups that everyone knows. He's the founder and CEO of AngelList, which is a really big startup. So he's done a lot, and he came from a tiny village in India when he was a kid. Cool. Yeah. So anyway, he like, just to kind of give you the short answer, like he has a thing where he talks about like like just I guess I'll give you the idea first, and I'll give you the thought experiment, and you tell me what you think about the thought experiment.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So the idea first is that there's two games that people play when they think about wealth. One is status. Status is a zero sum game, and people conflate status with wealth, right? Status is just am I do I have more than you, right? And
Mm-hmm.
status, there's always going to be positions, right? Like for me to be number one, you have to be number two.
Right.
So there's no way for everyone to win status. It's a loser's game. Um, but he talks about like wealth is a positive sum game, right? Because ultimately, like we talk about wealth is it's like material things or whatever, right? But I mean, just to throw out a question, like how many material things would make you wealthy? And do you think someone from Africa would give the same answer as you? Like someone from a small village in Africa would say, "Oh, I need a
Right.
Bentley." You know what I mean? It's subjective.
Right. I mean, I don't think I'd say I need a Bentley either, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I
but like
would,
how like what would you need to be wealthy, right? Like maybe someone from Africa
yeah,
would be like access to a grocery store, like
that would be
not
pretty
having
good.
to go,
Yeah.
like someone bring me a
I
water.
would honestly say I consider myself wealthy. I mean, I don't think I don't have anything I need. I'm certain. Like, let me clarify for all the viewers. I'm not like rich, but
Yeah,
by this definition, I would consider myself wealthy because there's really nothing I don't have that I really need. You know what I
but
mean? Maybe every once
that you want.
everything. I don't have everything I want. No,
Yeah,
but I mean, like, define how badly I want it. You know,
yeah.
like how
Well,
bad do
so
you have to want it? I could use a new. I've got an old pair. I'm a runner, and I've got an old GPS watch. Right. I could go buy a new GPS watch if I wanted to, but it's expensive. Why would I do that? I'm gonna keep using the old one, right? But like, do I really like? That's not like affecting my life negatively. It's not like I sit here and oh no, I can't buy my new GPS
yeah,
watch.
but we're talking about wealth, right? Like we're talking
Yeah.
about like because the thing is like so he has a really famous thought experiment when he tries to convey what wealth means because a lot of people think that like like for example, he talks about like being a poor person back in the 1300s versus being a poor person today.
Oh
Has
yeah.
there been wealth creation? Is a poor person today more wealthy than they were in the 1300s, And he
Yeah.
gives this example, right? When he talks about wealth. This is one of his thought experiments. So he's like, imagine today you could snap your fingers and every single person on earth has a great skill set of a software engineer and a hardware engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in the world, all 7 billion people will have that skill set.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 40 years from now, where do you think the world will be? Do you think there's going to be
How much
people
better?
spending their time working at McDonald's doing repetitive jobs? Or do you think all of that will be automated and that we'll all be doing more creative things? We'll all be doing more things with our time that we want to be doing. And all the things that we don't want to be doing will have been taken care of. Right? Like honestly, like what do you think would happen if everyone had that skill set?
Um, I, I think that you'd have a lot more engineers and a lot more things being built. People would be a lot more mathematically logical in their decision making. I don't think you'd still have someone flipping the burgers though, because I'm gonna want McDonald's. And I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you, I think there are people out there that are, even if you gave them the skill set of an engineer, they're not going to be able to use it because there's not that much going on up there.
No, 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 no,
Like
no. Oh,
not
so sorry.
everyone's.
I phrased. I was being too like. Okay, so maybe I left out enough detail. Everyone in the world is just as competent as you like imagine yourself, right? And
Oh
they
boy, we're
all.
screwed. That's it.
No, no, no. But like this. But what I'm
I'm
saying
totally
is
incompetent.
all like when I say they all have the skill set of a good hardware and software engineer, I don't mean they all think the same way. I mean what I mean is that the fry cook at McDonald's who's back on the grill and he sees the process, he sees what makes a good burger flip, he sees what makes a bad one, he sees all the problems. Oh, when you have this much grease, you have to flip the burgers this way and you have to clean it off at this and you have to set it at this temperature. That
Yeah,
guy now you snap your fingers, and all of a sudden he can go home and he can imagine a device that solves all that. And he's like, whoa, I can solve this problem. I can build something
right.
that
No,
does
I
this
see what you're saying.
perfectly.
Yeah, that
You see
sounds
what I'm
great.
so and so you're still gonna get the burgers because you want the burgers, but you don't want to flip them. You know
Right.
what I mean?
I got you. Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree.
I
Yeah,
that I
so let's
sorry, to bring it back, I think
yeah.
that's the promise of comp sci. That's what I was getting at.
Oh,
I
okay. Well,
think
I was gonna say
the
let's bring
promise
it
of
back
comp
because I
sci
don't
is
know what we're
wealth.
talking about. But that actually you brought it back in really well, so that makes sense now.
Yeah.
We weren't even off topic. I just thought we were. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I totally agree with you. I think that AI does have ability to really, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I think the AI has the ability to surpass the abilities of the human mind in a lot of things. Even at my level, I use computational software, right? This program called MATLAB, on at least a weekly basis, if not a daily basis, depending on which class I'm in, to solve integrals and stuff that, end up being 20 or 30 terms and would probably take me 3 hours, and I'd definitely make some mistakes, right? And I just plug it into MATLAB, and sure, it trails off the screen. The integral is so long, it literally will trail off the screen in small text, right? But like, it's right, and I didn't have to calculate it because I would have been there all day. Okay, I would never finish my homework, right? And of course, the professors know, yeah, you're supposed to, for some of these problems, if it doesn't solve trivially, right, or within 10 minutes, you should plug it into the computer. But things like that it's just so much better for physicists. Of course, I'm a physicist, so I'm just going to talk about that mostly, but any other sort of scientist, right, where you want to do some sort of data modeling or something, right? Well, your human brain is so slow, right? I can do maybe a computation a second, right? And my computer over here can do a billion computations a second easily, right? If it's a slow one. So I think that it's so revolutionary in that. And of course, that's not brand new, but that's like, I don't know. I feel like that's something a lot of people like overlook in their daily lives, because they don't get to see it. Right. Whereas like someone who, I don't know, I never thought about it before I kind of took some of these classes, and it was like, wow, this would really take, I'd have to work on this homework all week or all year if I didn't have a computer that could make some of this stuff a lot easier, and a lot, it would just be ridiculous.
Yeah. So I mean, you see what's happening there, right?
Yeah,
You don't
absolutely.
have to spend your time doing the useless, repetitive shit. Now it's
Exactly.
getting taken care
Exactly.
of for you, and
Right.
you own more of your time.
Exactly. No, and I think it's very valuable in that sense. And of course, any sort of statistical analysis, stuff like that. AI is so good at that, much better than humans. I did make
Yeah.
a little tiny demo here, so I'm going to share my screen real quick, just to kind of show some of our viewers who may not be quite as familiar. Can you see? I don't know what
Oh
I'm
yeah.
sharing.
Yeah. I
Okay, you
can
see
see it.
MATLAB. Okay, cool, cool. Actually, I better share the whole thing, because I'm gonna end up opening a new window. I forgot this thing opens a new window. There we go.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I see your
You see the
screen
whole
now.
thing? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me just hit. Oh, I don't need to hit run. I just need to hit return. So this is just like a really short bit of code, right? And this computes the Collatz conjecture. It runs the Collatz algorithm, I guess I should say. So the Collatz conjecture is this really interesting little mathematical trick, that if you have an even number, if you give me any number n, Kushagra, if you give me any number n, Kush, and you say, okay, 10. Well, I'm gonna every time if it's an even number, I divide by 2. And if it's an odd number, I multiply by 3 and add 1. So, I would go to 5 and then to 16 and then to 8 and then to 4 and then to 2 and then to 1. And you stop when you get to 1. So in a certain number of steps, you get to 1, right? Now that's very easy, right? But if you look here, I've programmed it to work for every number to do this for every number from 1 to 100,000. Right now, that's not so easy, right? I can do 10. I can't do 100, right? It would take me several minutes of the piece of paper to do 100, right? And to do 100,000 of these, of course, every number from 1 to 100,000, right? Do this little algorithm would take me a year, okay? Probably longer than that, right? I mean, I'd have to do so many every day, right? So let's hit enter and see how long it takes the computer, right? It's busy, it's thinking. I've had it graph it. So it's going to pop out as a graph with like, on the x-axis, you're going to have the number. Oh, there it goes. That was quick. On the x-axis, you've got the number. So this is our numbers. Like this is 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, all the way up to 100,000, right? And this is how many steps it takes to get down to 1. So as you can see, it takes 350 steps for whatever this number is. Let's say 753,000. I don't know. Okay. So anyway, this computer just did all those calculations, right? That were all very trivial, right? And things I couldn't do. And it didn't really have to think, right? And I want to be very deliberate in saying computers don't think, they calculate, right? But it calculated all these things way faster than I could, and it came out with this really cool little graph and little thing. Now this isn't very practical, but it's still cool to look at. There's a lot of symmetry here, and they kind of come in bars. So anyway, that's all I wanted to share. But I just think that's kind of that kind of thing. That's what computers are good at, right? In my opinion, and for any sort of researchy application, is they're so good at crunching numbers, right? Way better than any computer or any human could ever do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really cool. Um, And I do know, I think we could probably hop into to like the limitations and stuff,
Yeah, let's hit
if
that.
you want.
Yeah. So now this is something you're definitely gonna know more about than me.
I don't know about
So
that. I feel like you know a lot.
I don't know much about AI. So AI, of course, is kind of the big promise, right? I think there's a lot of hype in the computer science world about the coming of, better and really competent AI, right? That uses like deep learning and is really kind of free of human influence. And I recently attended a physics talk the other day, and the guy was using AI to decode how proteins interact with each other. And he said that they figured out through this AI software that these couplings that they thought were totally random were related in ways humans would have never thought of. Like when they looked at like what the solution was, they're like, "Oh my god, I
Hmm.
never would have thought of that." But like they were coupling randomly, quote unquote, but it was actually more predictable, and there was less randomness in the random couplings than they thought there were in like the easily observable, like the what they thought were the deterministic couplings. So like the proteins were binding more often in like more reliably given what they thought was the random case, and the AI figured that out. So it's really they're really really good at that sort of thing, right? But of course, at the same time, like they oftentimes can't recognize simple shapes and stuff. So what do you have to say there?
Yeah. I mean, I don't, again, like I don't know a ton about like AI specifically. But I do know, I mean, I've taken like just two classes. Like I know like a little bit about computer architecture. I remember like one of the classes I took my sophomore year, like we designed like a really, really simple like computer chip, but from the transistors up.
Wow,
Um,
that's crazy.
so no, but it's really simple. And the point that I'm trying to get at there is like, I mean, this isn't magic, like it's really simple. Like you have at the base of it all, you have transistors that are on or off. And then with those, you build these things called like logic gates, um, that take in, a signal, like if something's on and something's off or whatever, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
they decide whether it's going to be on, and then it just builds up, so
I do remember I had the pleasure of learning about logic gates at the end of electronics, and that was like my favorite unit in the whole class. It was so cool.
yeah. Yeah, it's like, I mean, I guess the what I'm trying to add into to what you're saying is just the simple fact that, like, these computers aren't doing magic. They're doing really simple calculations. And like I remember the computer that we designed, I think it only had like built into the chip, like in the hardware, it only had like 26 commands, and that was enough for a whole computer. Um,
Wow.
I remember a professor telling us too, like about like back in like the 90s or something, someone had designed a computer that only had one command built into the hardware, which was like subtract. Uh, like it had the ability to subtract, and it could make everything else with just the subtract.
That's
So
crazy. Wow. How
yeah,
much like so for instance my Windows computer right here, how many commands do you think that runs on the hardware level?
I don't really remember. And I'm also not remembering the exact technical words, but I do know, I remember like that professor, because he's like a hardware nut. Like I remember him explaining how like Windows is notorious for like leaving a lot of like older stuff in their hardware because they want everything to be backwards compatible. So
Right.
he said like they'll like leave in like hundreds of like stuff that like things they don't even use will still be baked into the
That's really
chips.
interesting. Huh. Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean with Windows you gotta, realize like they have so many things that run on them and like there's so much code they'd probably forget something if they took it out and something would break, maybe my dad's bootleg, 2003 Microsoft Word that he got from like some company he worked for like 100 years ago, wouldn't run anymore, and then he'd be mad about it, So they gotta, um, stuff like that. I don't know. I think there's so many applications. It's probably safest to do that.
Yeah.
Um, so I do have a little bit of experience watching OpenAI. I've played a lot of this video game called Dota 2. I'm gonna share my screen one more time here to kind of explain the game a teensy bit. This is relevant, I promise. Um, so this is a Dota 2 map, basically. So you got 5 people on this team and 5 people on this team, and they kind of compete. See this big star here? You try to compete to destroy the opponent's. This is like the enemy's base, and you try to compete. Like if I'm on the blue team, if I'm on the radiant team, I want to destroy the enemy's base there. Um, and that's how I win the game, right? And so it's 5 versus 5, but each person is a specific hero, and the heroes are very, very different. They have 4 different abilities that's unique to that hero. Each ability is unique to that hero, and they have other different stats and stuff that makes them different from each other. And so you end up with a vast variety, right? I mean, there's 120 different heroes, so it's 5 different whatever, five heroes with 120 combinations on 120 possibilities for each hero on one team. Then that many on another team, and each hero can buy. They can level up their abilities in any order they want to. They can, buy items in any order they want to. There's like 200 items or something ridiculous. So the point is, it's a vastly complex game, and it's in real time. And there's a great deal of strategy as well as some mechanical skills involved in the game. And so basically, the point of all this is Elon Musk funded this project. I don't remember if it was one of his companies. Funded this project called OpenAI. And OpenAI's job was to learn how to play Dota, as well as humans do. And so they took this OpenAI and they kind of just plugged it in the game and let it run it, and it was running it like accelerated. It's playing like 1 million hours of Dota a day or something ridiculous. And it would play itself over and over and over again, right? Controlling everyone on the board, right? So it's playing like 10 players in the game. It was kind of crazy. All 10 players, and so it would play itself, and it would learn. Okay, all they said was, "Look, it's good to win the game." And the AI was like, "Oh, okay, well, I'll try to win the game," right? And so it gradually learned from there. Okay, well, if I destroy the enemy's towers, then I win the game more often. If I kill the enemies, then I win the game more often. The longer the enemy's dead, the more likely I am to win the game, right? If I run over to the enemy's base and hit their main structure, that makes me right. So things like that, right? And so it eventually worked out kind of a strategy, right? And it was a really interesting strategy because it played the game totally different from human players. Because for one, it was way more coordinated, and they gave it a few little handicaps, like it had like a quarter-second delay before it could act. But like that's because otherwise it would just win everything by pure mechanical skill, right? Because humans are really slow compared to computers. But so it would take it took them years to develop this thing to the point where it could beat the professional teams. And what is remarkable to me about that is Dota 2 is a game with a very fixed rule set and relatively simple game mechanics, like for a computer. Okay, it takes a human a dozen games or so to kind of get the feel of things, right? But for a computer, it's not that hard. And they programmed in all the rules and everything to begin with, and what the computer could do and whatnot. And even then, it took them that long to do it, right? I mean, I don't know how many millions of hours the computer had played, but it was literally tens of millions of hours or more. I'm sure of that. And they still did weird stuff and lost sometimes. They would do really weird things like suicide in the enemy's base and stuff, or like run around the trees for no reason. And or buy really bad items. So the point is, I guess, Dota 2 is a complicated game, but it's a lot more simple than real life, right? And I think that AI is really good for certain things and really good at analyzing statistics or finding patterns, right? Like I said, the proteins, right? And I think it'd be really great for that sort of thing, right? But I think maybe, it shouldn't be like, for instance, for one, I'm very skeptical about driving, self-driving cars, right? Because I think the real world is very complex, and whatever super complex software that's really sophisticated, designed to keep that car on the road, it's not prepared for everything in the world that could happen, right? It's not prepared for like, a chicken crossing the road, okay? Right? It would freak out, right? It doesn't know those things, right? I read about like some grad students who messed up a Tesla's autopilot system by putting a sticker on the speed limit signs, and it totally like threw them off the road because they thought that was like the edge of the road now, and it was weird. So anyway, stuff like that, right? That wouldn't fool a human, right? It makes me skeptical of AIs in very complicated real life scenarios where there's unexpected variables that the AI may not be able to accommodate. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll throw my thoughts here real quick. So, I mean, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think like a lot of times like people like look at AI like it's something that's supposed to like replace humans, and while I'm not an expert, data science isn't really my thing. I've never found it super interesting, so I haven't taken any time to explore it. Um, by what I do know, I don't really think that the majority of people who are doing that are trying to replace humans. I think that they're trying to find more efficient ways to take advantage of what computers can do in terms of data processing techniques. Also, when you're talking about the self-driving cars and stuff, I happen to be taking maybe the hardest class I've taken in my life this semester, which is algorithms and analysis this semester. And
Hmm.
so there, like I can tell you that a lot of times, like you might think that just using a picture, like processing what's happening in front of a car in real time, like how could any computer be fast enough to do that and react quick enough? But I will tell you, like there's a lot of like insane algorithms out there that cut down processing times in ways that like surprise you. Like,
Hmm.
like for example, have you heard of bubble sort?
No, no.
Okay, so like bubble sorts, like if I have like a list of numbers that are in order, like it'll just go to each one and be like, oh, is this one less than this one? Okay, move it up, and it'll
Oh
just
no,
move it
yeah,
up.
I've heard of that. Yeah, yeah, actually, I have heard of that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's like known as the painfully like the worst
Right,
algorithm,
and it's like a factor. It's like
n squared.
exponentially. Yeah, it's n squared. Yeah, that's right. It's
Yeah,
terribly slow.
yeah,
Right,
but you also have to like there's also algorithms out there that are log n,
right.
or even constant time, and
Yeah,
so like a lot of times I will say like
constant
you
time for sorting numbers. Really?
there. I mean, I didn't say for
Okay, okay,
there's
sorry.
algorithms that are constant time. I can't think of any off the top of my head that are for sorting. Um,
But like log n, I
but
could see log n probably for
no,
constant time.
log n is so there's
Sorting
different
numbers.
common
Right?
ones. There's log n, there's n log n,
Huh.
there's n squared. There's a few like really common runtimes.
Yeah, that's
Um,
interesting. Huh.
anyway, those are my closing thoughts. Those
Yeah.
my
Yeah,
remarks.
just to give a little bit of context there, we were talking about for viewers who aren't necessarily familiar with that sort of terminology, we were talking about like how long it takes the computer to run, for instance, a number sorting algorithm for n numbers, right? And so
Yeah,
we started
or
saying, yeah, sometimes like the bubble wrap one he was talking about is like super slow. So if you had, two numbers, it would take 4 seconds, and if you had 10 numbers, it would take 100 seconds, right? Whereas
yeah.
the log n would take like, right, like I don't know how long would it take.
No, it's not exactly that. So a lot
Yeah,
of times, so there's three. Again, I know we're 2 minutes over, so I'm just gonna make this really
it's
short.
okay.
There's like you have you can have theta of n whatever, you can
Mhm,
have big O of n, you can have omega, and
mhm.
so it's like there's like the average case runtime, worst case runtime, best case runtime. Um, so the ends, it kind of gets confusing there because it's like which case are you talking about? And
Yeah,
then also like when you say log n or n squared or whatever, you're just looking at whatever the highest order term is. So if I have n squared, like if I get the runtime by doing n squared plus n, then I just call it n squared. I won't call it n squared plus n. I don't know
gotcha.
if that made any
Okay.
sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, because as you approach infinity, the end becomes irrelevant, right? It's kind of a yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's just like
Yeah,
how shitty is this? Like, just give me
yeah,
the basic like if I hear n squared, I'm like, wow, that's shit. And if I hear log n, I'm like, wow, you did a good job. That's
yeah. No,
really what
I
that
see. That makes
means.
sense. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay,
we're like 4 minutes over.
that's okay. We're having a good time. Um, we're
Yeah.
we have suggested Shagar, like it's not a time limit. It's a time suggestion. All right, Kush, come on, man.
Yeah.
It's a time suggestion. um, all right. So brief discussion. Yeah, ethics of AI. Yeah. So I mean, I think the biggest thing in the news recently. So I guess I have to start it off with that. Kind of. I don't have to, but racist bank algorithms, right? That like don't give loans to minorities, and I've heard they're also discriminatory towards gay people as well. And so I don't know why that's both of those things are surprising to me, because how can a computer be racist, right? It's so strange. Um, but I mean, I guess the long and the short version is, the algorithm figured out, well, if someone has this specific background, they're more likely to default on their loan or whatever. And then it started discriminating. It started saying, okay, well, if someone's this background, I won't give them a loan because they may be more likely to default on it, right? That's one of the things that was associated with it, right? And so, if I'm, let's say I am heterosexual, but if I were a gay man, let's say, and I wanted to go get a loan, and the computer had figured out, well, gay men are 5% more likely to default. So, he's right on the edge. We're not going to give it to him. Then, all of a sudden, I'm being discriminated against because I'm gay, right? Which is like wrong, right? Of course. So, how do you suggest we kind of deal with those sorts of ethical quandaries? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, God, I'm saying so much. You're asking someone who isn't really like a data science expert, so I'll just throw something out there, and maybe
Sure,
this will
yeah.
end with a question back to you. But I'm kind of repeating myself, but at the end of the day, like a computer is only going to do what you tell it to do. I'm sure there's data science experts out there who are screaming at their computers right now, like AI is the powerful like innovation does this. I mean, I don't know anything about that, but I do know at the end of the day, like a computer is just going to do what you tell it to do.
Well, that's the thing
Um,
about AI though, is because it kind of writes its own rules. You know what I mean? I mean, these AI
yeah,
programs weren't programmed, right? They said, hey, look at all this data we have for the last, I don't know how many years, let's say 10 years, I don't know, 20 years, um, and figure out who we should have been giving loans to this whole time, right?
mhm,
And then the computer looks at it and is like, oh, well, this is what we should do, right? Just like the Dota 2 machine, no one taught the machine how to play Dota or how to win Dota, right? It just, they kind of threw it in the game and were like, okay, machine, win the game. And the machine's like, oh, I don't know what to do, but it eventually figures it out. You know what I mean? Just like a human player would. And oftentimes they do that in ways like humans wouldn't be able to think of per se, right? Like the protein AI I was talking about earlier, this guy was like, yeah, I mean, we never would have figured this out. It was way too complicated. The interaction was like, there's too many things moving. You know what I mean? A human brain can't keep all this mathematical terms kind of in, and find the relation there, but the machine can because it's so much more adept at handling numbers like that, right? Sorry, yeah, go ahead. That's
oh no,
all.
you're
That's all
fine.
I was saying is like,
No. That's more interesting than what I had to say.
I
I
was just
like
saying, like, I
my
think that in this case, we're not telling them what to do, which is kind of the good and the bad of it, right? In that, wow,
yeah
this computer can kind of teach itself how to do something in a way I'd never be able to teach it how to do it, right? And on the other hand, wow, this computer could really teach itself something bad. What was it, like Microsoft or something made some kind of bot that like went on Reddit or something and then like started using the N-word and stuff because it was like interacting with people and the people would like cuss at it or whatever, and then it would start like they would learn to cuss, like their adaptive AI software programmed itself to cuss because that's how people were talking. I
yeah.
don't know.
Again,
It was
I
some kind
don't
of internet
know.
chat bot that I heard about.
Yeah, I don't. That's actually really interesting, and I don't know anything. Like, actually, I don't. Off the top of my head, I don't even know what. I don't even know if I've ever looked at code that does anything AI related, to be honest. Um, and so I don't know what this like looks like. What like in terms of actual code, like
Oh,
what
I
you
don't know
tell a
either. I
computer to
have no
do.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I'm making this totally from a place of like non-expertise. But I will say, like, I hear like some of my professors say it a lot, where it's like, computer scientists, a lot of times they describe what they're doing in really vague ways because they want to make it seem like they're magicians. And so, like, when you're using words like it learns how to do, it teaches itself, stuff like that,
Yeah, yeah, it's
a
hype.
lot of times that's coming from the echo chambers of the computer scientists who want the world to think that they're doing some magic, where in
Yeah, yeah.
reality, they're just telling a computer to do what they want it to do.
I mean, physicists do the same thing. How many I always want to scream when I see like, you know, um this black hole is hurtling straight towards Earth, or like, astrophysicist says, um, that an asteroid the size of New York City is hurtling straight for us and would be an extremely near miss. And, the extremely near miss is it's like halfway between us and Mars, okay? Like the dude's trying to get funding. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, shut up, man. It's not a near miss. This happens all the time. Like I see these freaking headlines every weekend. Like, like
Yeah.
anyway, or like they use some sort of like super sensationalist, like, these creatures are the, some things that we know, I don't know, the Darth Vaders of the sea floor. And I'm like, no, it's not. What are you talking about? Like,
Yeah.
like the worst description I've ever heard. But that's just journalists and scientists kind of co-conspiring there to
Yeah.
sell some
Yeah.
papers. Um, but yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from with that. Yeah, and I think I really agree with you what you said there at the end. You know, the computer's not learning or whatever, right? It's not a magic box, and I totally agree with that because my understanding is that the computer can't think, right? It can compute, right? We don't call it a
Yeah.
thinker, right? And that's kind of what it all comes down to, right? I mean, I don't know. Have you ever had a computer like fix your coding problems or solve a problem for you?
I mean, it doesn't work like I know I saw like Woz had a snippet where he was talking about like he's like,
This Steve
like
not Steve Wozniak.
yeah, Steve
Okay.
Wozniak,
Well,
where
he
he
was
was like,
Google. No, no,
he was
Apple,
a
right?
yeah, co-founder of Apple.
Okay.
He was talking about like he was like the guy asked him, so like he's like when he's like do you see AI becoming more intelligent or human like or whatever? And he was like, I don't really know if there's anyone out there who's trying to design an AI that wakes up in the morning and thinks, what do I want to do today? He's like, I think like with where like Siri and all that stuff's going, he's like, I just think that those guys like, they've just taken an assistant and they've given it a new interface. So rather than it being a screen with buttons and dialogues and stuff, they've just given it an audio interface, and that's
Yeah,
why it
that's really
seems
all
so
it
cool.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah, my friends in my suite have an Alexa that they've got, and that thing is the stupidest thing.
yeah.
Never does what you want to do.
It's just they changed the input output, but it's still a computer.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's just an exciting input output.
yeah,
That's what it is.
yeah, yeah. I agree. And that's the thing where like it makes me nervous too, right? I mean, I've heard of forget who, I think it's South Korea has like AI guns, right? That like is designed to shoot incoming North Koreans or whatever, someone like that. I forget who. I think it might be Israel, one of those countries. A country that's under a lot of threat all the time, military wise and whatnot. And that scares me, right? Because there could be a little kid running across the border and that gun's gonna shoot it, right? Um,
Yeah,
like there could be a lot of situations in which the computer's not going to think about it. You know what I mean? Whereas a human would.
yeah.
Uh,
No,
right?
I hear
Like
what you're
we,
describing.
yeah,
I think I mean this is the same deal with like a lot of innovation though, where a lot of times it's like a really it's a complex situation. It's not very clear what's right and what's wrong. But I mean, I just feel like this is one of those things where like we just have to trust the people who are experts and trust that they aren't gonna put some stupid shit out there that they're gonna test, whatever it is
I
that
think
they're
I don't
doing.
know. I think that society's interaction with the technology so far have been um, I mean, sorry, technology. I think computers is what I mean to say have been somewhat disastrous in a way. You know what I mean? I mean, look at how the internet's largely used. People are really kind of I don't know. I mean, I don't think that the internet's necessarily been a positive thing for society. I don't know. Um, I mean, obviously, it's an incredibly powerful tool, but how much of society is using it as that, right? Instead of, there's a lot of, um, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is I am skeptical of um, of the computer science department's ability, just like I'm skeptical of physicists, for instance, Einstein didn't make the atom bomb, right? He didn't mean to, that's for sure. But if he hadn't discovered all that stuff, there wouldn't have been an atom bomb, right? Like we all end up making as scientists or whatever in our field, right? Or, computer science geeks, whatever you want to call them. I think they're scientists, right? In a sense. I mean, it's in the title. You end up making things that you don't know what necessarily the outcome's going to be, right? When people interact with it, I don't know. And I guess that's just progress. But the AI thing is like, I don't know. Like I said, the chatbot that I read about that was like, started off as like a pleasant little chatbot that was supposed to go talk to people on the internet and learn how to interact with them. And it ended up like spewing curse words, right? And racial epithets because that's what people put into it, right? What
Yeah,
happens when that's not an internet chatbot? That's a gun. You know what I mean? Or that's a nuclear launch facility thing that's running on an AI script, right? In case we all get blown to hell, right?
yeah,
In what?
yeah. No, I agree with what you're saying. It
Yeah,
makes a lot of
Skynet.
sense to me. And I knew I think we should probably get to a point where we're wrapping up pretty soon.
Okay, yeah,
But
yeah. You could have a final
I'll give
response and
my
then we'll finish.
yeah, I'll wrap up on my end.
Yeah.
I do agree with what you're saying. Yeah, I think yeah today if I just don't know enough about AI to really make a statement like I think it's good or bad. But I
Oh
think
no, I'm not
in
making
terms
a
of,
statement at all. Yeah, let me
yeah,
be
oh
clear. I'm
yeah,
not.
you know, I
Yeah,
just also
I
want to
like
clarify
it so
my end.
far. It's
Yeah.
cool. I just
But
have
I think
concerns.
with any innovation, you know, there's going to be good things and bad things. And for me personally, I think it would be, I don't, I mean, Elon Musk has a better quote about it, but personally, I think it's really hard to be happy if you don't imagine that the future is going to be better than the present. And
Yeah,
so, I have faith that, with the right entrepreneurial spirit, we're going to get to a place in the future with all these things that we're using them to make the world a better place for everyone. And that, I mean, that's just like my
that
final thought
that
on
is
that.
what I hope. Yeah, absolutely. I think AI has the potential to do that too. So
Yeah.
fingers crossed. All right. Well, let's do the outro.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening in. We had a really good time, kind of having our little series on computer science. Of course, there's still a lot of questions out there to be answered, but we hope you enjoyed kind of our little discussion here. Yeah. Back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. It was a fun discussion.
It was a fun
Um,
segment. I enjoyed it. We went over as always. That's always a good
Yeah,
sign.
that's fine. I think we were a bit better this week. And yeah, probably I know like this week was also a bit more straightforward. So I don't know if you enjoyed that or you didn't enjoy it, make sure to let us know in the comments. Because we really, really, really do need and greatly appreciate every piece of feedback we get, whether it's
Absolutely.
good, bad, whatever. Please let us know so we can make this thing better for you guys. Um, and I guess I'll end it off really quick with and if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to grab your oh man, I don't know, what are you thinking?
AI supercomputer. I don't know.
Yeah, make sure to grab your AI supercomputer facility and smash that like button to show your support for the video if you enjoyed it. And also make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. That way, every time we post a video on Sundays at 9:30 in the morning, you get a notification, you click on it, it takes you to the video, you listen to it in the background while you cook, clean, drive, whatever. Super simple. And that's all from us this week. See you guys next week. Bye bye.